Hello and welcome to our presentation entitled On Reducing the Energy Consumption of Software from Hurdles to Requirements on the ESEM 2020 conference. My name is Zakaria Ournani and I'm a second-year PhD student. I'll provide you today with some mainline information on the qualitative study that we conducted in an industrial context to understand the problems of green software design among developers and how to promote green software design as a more important factor to take into account in projects. Our main objectives can be summarized into three ideas. First, we intend to investigate developers' knowledge and awareness on green software design. Then, we aim at understanding the constraints and hurdles that developers are facing and their tooling needs to apply green software design properly. Finally, we want to identify the main sensitization and awareness means that developers would react to and create a better understanding of the issues and responsibilities around software energy consumption and green software design considerations within companies. First, let's start with a quick methodology description. This figure depicts the main steps of the study, starting with participant selection, where we aimed at senior and expert developers with whom we conducted individual interviews of a mean time of 40 minutes. Each interview got recorded and transcribed, then analyzed based on the grounded theory principles. The analysis phase was a bit tedious and time-consuming, and it was executed in 4 steps, which are open coding, actual coding, selective coding, and data selection. The analysis has been done independently by 2 authors with a consensus on the final result in order to increase the accuracy of the study and hinder the subjective interpretation. After analyzing the data, we were able to extract some findings and conclusions based on the core ideas. Our findings are centered around 3 main categories that are also our study objectives, which are developers' awareness and knowledge about green software design, the constraints and tooling problems, and the responsibilities and sensitization to promote green software design. First, developers' awareness and knowledge. Our main concern was to cover developer level of awareness and knowledge of green software design, but also the importance they give it and if they have already had such considerations in their past experience. The first keyword here is awareness. During our study, we noticed that developers are moderately aware about the green problems, maybe not directly at a professional level, but at least in their daily life, which is a good base for a better green software design consideration. The second key idea that was evoked is knowledge. We noticed during our analysis that despite the awareness of some developers of software energy consumption issues, they still have very limited knowledge on what exactly it is and how to deal with it, which is a big question mark as they don't know how to identify the energy bugs in their projects and how to enhance their work regarding the energy considerations. Next is the lack of application, which is kind of a normal consequence to the previous point. In fact, our participants didn't report on any prior consideration of the software energy consumption as a full matter. Developers often try to act on performance to reduce the energy consumption, which is true or correct in most but not all scenarios. Finally, being important is a thing, but being a priority is another. At least that's what we analyzed during our study, that it is not evident to prioritize the green aspects in professional development, and some conflicts may even rise when with other metrics such as security or code maintenance, where the green aspects might be considered as less important. But in any case, the green software design is not a real concern in nowadays development and is not likely to be prioritized against code maintenance, for example. The second main category or core idea is about the constraints and hurdles that developers are facing against software energy consumption considerations in one hand, and the specifications for the tools they need to achieve the green software design on the other hand. The first constraint that we analyzed from the interview answers is the time, where developers feel that no extra time is given during projects, and green software design as a full new matter would need a considerable amount of time that hasn't been planned in the project. The second main reported problem is the lack of tools, as developer reported on never heard of tools that allow monitoring and evaluating the software energy consumption per se. The third main problem is ignorance of developers. Even if our participants seem to be fairly aware of the green software design problems, they evoked an important ignorance of the issues and the consequences of the green aspects and how to deal and to identify and deal with the energy bugs. Going back to tools, we investigated the main specifications and features that developers want and expect to have. So first, we had a consensus on having global scores and KPIs that allow monitoring and comparing the evolution of the energy footprint of a software during its development phase. It could use some graphical output and should be as simple as possible as reported by our participants. Then integrate the tools to the current or existent CI/CD or testing platform, so the developers don't have to change their habits and experience. An example for that would be monitoring the software energy consumption across Git commits. Then some developers evoked the use of static code analysis, but moderately, as it will potentially allow an early identification of the bad habits and practices, but not much more. The third core idea is about the responsibility of the company in the process of promoting the green software design and the best sensitization means that developers would react to. First of all, company plus plus, which means that the company is the main guide of the process or of promoting the green software design, or probably should be. They suggest that many aspects should be improved, including communication, strategy, transparency, etc. One of the main suggested things for the company is to define objectives, which will create a big motivation for the developers and clearly specify the aims and what they are going to be judged on every couple of months. Going to the best means of sensitization that developers would react to, our participants reported on the need of having recurrent presentations. Those presentations should be more about sensitization and quick tips and guidelines rather than chunks of data and information. On the other hand, training should be utilized to teach and inform developers about detailed practices, forming experts that would integrate or participate in many projects and bring their knowledge to help developers acquire it. So they can use it so the second generation of developers could use it in further and other projects. One last idea is the green marketing, which could constitute an additional selling argument, but should be done very carefully and with full integrity and transparency to avoid what our participants called greenwashing. Now we'll quickly talk about the main application of our study. The application of our study aimed at 4 different entities, starting with developers and their need to establish a better communication with decision makers to be more open for changes and try to help the others by doing presentation and posters to sensitize and teach their colleagues, knowing that our participants reported on having a better reaction and acceptance for a presentation coming from their peers. For decision makers, they should work on a wide but yet in-depth communication, establish objectives around green software design, and consider it as a selling argument rather than just an advertising label. We also provided feedback for tool creators with the basic specification descriptions of what developers need and expect. And finally, a set of applications for researchers to build, for example, the right set of KPIs and to investigate the trade-off between energy and performance, etc. So to conclude, we conducted a qualitative study to investigate on how to promote software energy consumption considerations and green software design within a big company, which also can be used and expanded for other companies with the same characteristics. We provide numerous applications for developers, decision makers, tool creators, and researchers that will help promoting the green software design concern even further. This is the end of our presentation. Thank you for your attention.